Hi everyone, it's Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you how I made this love shaker card. So this love shaker card I shared with you on my YouTube channel when I did my card share for the Stamps of Life Sweet Treats online class. And I had many of you ask me to do a tutorial on how I made this shaker card. So that's what I'm gonna do with you today. So this was made with the Love Folded Die set. And again, this is part of the Sweet Treats online class. Now this can only be purchased if you buy the class. So you buy the kit for the class and you get this die. Now, at the time of filming this, there are some spots left in the class, but I cannot guarantee by the time I put this video out on YouTube that there will be any spots left. But a lot of you purchased this, so I want to show you how I made this card. So this die set, it does have 3 parts. So you have your large shadow piece, which makes your A2 size card. So this does make an A2 size card. It will fit in an A2 size envelope. And then you have some layering pieces, and then this die actually cuts out the letters. So the letters in pink that you see on my card, those were cut with this particular die. So I'm going to be using this die. I'm also going to be using, I decided that I wanted to pick my pattern paper that I want for the background first before I pick the actual cardstock colors that I want to go on top. So when you're making this card, look and see what pattern paper you want to use. Also see what shaker bits you have and see what colors you have. I am so excited because I finally get to use these brand new shaker bits that I got for Christmas. So I have decided that I'm going to use these heart shaker bits. I think these look like those cute little conversation hearts that they sell at the stores for Valentine's Day, and they come in all these pretty pastel colors. So if you're interested in any of these shaker bits or any of this, I'll link all that down below. You can take a look at that. I did previously do a video on showing you all of these different shaker bits and these storage compartments, so I'll link that below as well. But these are the bits I'm going to use, and I wanted to pick the shaker bits that matched the paper. And then I'm looking at the shaker bits and I see that there's pinks and yellows, and there's like a mint green and a white and a purple. So the purple is going to be the match this paper, and then I'm going to pick out, I'm probably going to use pink, and I'm probably going to use mint green. I don't know if I'll bring in any of the other colors, but we will see. So I'm going to take this. So the first thing I'm going to do, and by the way, this paper is from the Spring Basics collection. It's the pattern paper from the Stamps of Life. I'm not sure if that's currently on their website or if it's sold out, but that's the paper pad I'm using. So I'm going to set this aside. And by the way, I just want to show you, you can open it up and write your message inside. So it is an actual card. All right, so first, I'm going to die cut the background, and that's going to be cut out of this shadow layer. So because my hearts are going a specific direction, you just want to make sure that you use some washi tape and you adhere this down so that when it runs through the die cut machine, it doesn't end up, getting crooked and then not die cutting straight. So go ahead and run that through your die cut machine. All right, so I'm just going to remove my washi tape, and this piece I don't need anymore. I'll just save that with my scraps, and then that's going to be the background. So when you look at this card, you see that it has a heart paper back here. That's what this piece is going to be. I'm going to set this aside for now, and then next you're going to need these 2 dies. So you have your largest die in the set, and then you have this other layering die. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some washi tape just to keep these together. Just make sure that the die in the middle or the die on the inside is centered and you have equal space between these dies all around. So just do your best just to line those up. And you're going to connect those with washi tape. So go ahead and use your washi tape, connect it in several spots. because you're gonna need this particular die, the way that it is connected, you're gonna need it to cut out several pieces of cardstock. So you wanna make sure that it stays together. So next you're gonna decide what you want for this outline. So what color paper do you want for the outline? Because that's what this is gonna cut out. It's gonna cut out this thin little red strip that I have here, which is an outline of this actual die. And what I did for this particular card, if you see, I'm just gonna turn it to the side, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. Because my shaker bits were so thick, I use these round balls, I had to layer up a bunch of pieces of cardstock when I cut this outline out in order for me to be able to put the acetate on here smoothly. Now, I didn't want to use a gazillion pieces of cardstock. So what I ended up doing is I ended up cutting chipboard, and I used 4 pieces of chipboard on the bottom, and then I did, I think, like maybe 2 layers of the strawberry cardstock on the top. So that's another option if you don't want to use so many pieces of cardstock to layer up your wall to hold your shaker bits inside, is that you can use chipboard. And again, I did that because my shaker bits were so thick and I needed more layers so that I had an even piece of acetate to go over top. So if your shaker bits aren't as thick, maybe you're just using paper for your shaker bits. You're not gonna need so many layers here. And these shaker bits that I'm using today are much thinner, and they're just little hearts, and they're much thinner than those balls that I used there. So I'm not gonna need as many layers. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I am going to take this die and I am going to die cut some cardstock. So it's whatever color you want for this outline of the die. So this is the red, that's what we're cutting out. But this time I'm using the pink cardstock and I'm gonna cut it out of pink. So you're gonna need one color that's gonna be the top. So whatever color you want to display on the top, go ahead and die cut now. And then afterwards, if you wanted to use chipboard, all the pieces underneath could be chipboard if you don't want to use so much cardstock. But if you don't want to use chipboard, you can just take this same die and die cut the pink cardstock several times. So I'm going to go ahead and do my die cutting. So I just did the one layer, and I just want to show you what's going to come out of the die cut machine. So be careful removing this die, because remember, you don't want to remove this washi tape. So let me get this out of here. So this piece we're not going to use, but you can most definitely save that for another project, and you're going to end up with several of those pieces. Okay, so here is the outline that you get. So that's the outline that's going to go right on top, just like that. So I went ahead and die cut a total of 6 pieces of the pink cardstock from this particular die. And one of the pieces I'm going to set aside, because that piece is the piece that's going to cover up the acetate. It's going to go over top of the acetate. So this piece you're going to set aside, and you're actually going to be layering up, or I'm actually going to be layering up 5 pieces of these outlines that I cut out. Now I need to mention that this paper that I'm using is a thicker cardstock. I believe it's 110-pound cardstock from Michaels. I think it's the Recollections brand. And I wanted to use a thicker cardstock so that I didn't have to use as many layers. So if you use a thinner cardstock, you may need to include more layers. As I said, you can always do the chipboard trick and put chipboard and not cut as many layers. So you guys just really need to determine how many layers you need. So how do I determine how many layers? I just basically line these up. And these pieces are so delicate because it's this thin outline. So if I line these up and just rest them there on my shadow and put one of these shaker pieces inside here. Let me do a different color so you could see. Just put one of your shaker bits in there and just see, kind of put it up along the edge and just make sure that the cardstock goes over top or it's above the shaker piece. That's how you know that you have enough layers. If you see that your shaker piece is maybe exactly even with the cardstock, or if the shaker piece is above the cardstock, then you're gonna need more layers. So just by looking at this, I can see that I have plenty of layers, and I might even have one too many, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. So the next thing that you're gonna do is we need to get a piece of acetate. So we're gonna do some die cutting. So you need to remove all of this washi tape because now you're finished with this layered die. You don't need to die cut any more layers once you've die cut all of that. So just remove your washi tape. And then the inside die you're gonna set aside, and you're gonna use the largest die in the set. This is that large shadow die. It's the same die we used to die cut this heart paper. So you're gonna take a piece of acetate and you're going to just die cut a piece of acetate using that large shadow layer die. So here's my piece of acetate. You probably can't see it that well on camera, but it is the entire shape of the word love. Now I want to mention when you're cutting your acetate to make sure that your cutting plates, number one, are clean, because if they're not clean and they have paper particles on them, you might get paper particles and dust, just paper scraps stuck in your acetate, and then it won't look very nice. So, and another thing, I mentioned in my last shaker video when I did the fishbowl that my acetate wasn't cutting very well. And this was amazing because this actually cut perfectly. And one of my subscribers in that video, Lori Dolly, I think that's how she says her name, she said to just put a piece of cardstock underneath and then you'll get a clean cut. And I tried that and it cut perfectly. So I didn't have to use my scissors to cut anything off of there. So there is my piece of acetate. So now we have everything that we need to actually make the shaker, with the exception of these letters. But what I want to do is go ahead and make this shaker, and then we can decorate the top and we'll worry about that die cutting later. So I'm going to set this aside and let's go ahead and start. Go ahead and set your acetate aside, and right now I have my 5 pieces of pink outlines from my cardstock, and I'm going to layer those up with some glue. I have 1 piece that I have set aside because that's going to be my top layering piece. You're going to need glue, and you're going to need a fine tip because look how thin these pieces are that you're going to need to put glue on. So make sure you have a fine tip. This is my art glitter glue. It's been very well used. So I'm going to start with 1 piece of these layers, and I'm going to glue this piece down to my shadow layer. And if you've got any thick spots of glue, just use your finger and just kind of rub that in, because you definitely don't want the glue to seep out. So just layer this up, making sure that this pink layer comes right to the edge of that pattern paper. Okay, so there's our first layer. Now we're gonna go through the same process and do each of the remaining 4 layers. So we'll have a total of 5 layers on top. So once you have all of your layers, go ahead and remove that acrylic block that was just holding everything together so that that glue dried and those dried flat. You're going to then add your shaker pieces. Now, because this is all going to be shaker, you're going to have a lot of pieces to put in here. So I'm just going to make sure that there's no paper particles in here. So I'm just going to tap any of the dust particles out. And also, you want to make sure that there's no glue seeping along the inside of this outline. If there is, you need to clean it up and you need to wait for all of the glue to dry before you add your shaker pieces. Okay, so one thing about these shakers is you want to make sure that they're not layered, so they all need to be flat. Otherwise, that could affect the way that you put your acetate on. The acetate might not sit flat, and you want to make sure everything is flat. So make sure they're not all bunched up. So just kind of maneuver them a little bit with your fingers. Once you have your acetate on, if they end up bunching up, that's really not a big deal. You just want to make sure that when you're putting this together, that everything is flat. And it's really up to you how much you want to put in here. I don't want to use all of these, so I think that's going to be plenty. All right, so next we're going to get the acetate piece, and that is going to go right over top. So you're going to get your glue, and this time, instead of gluing, you're not going to glue this acetate. So instead of gluing here in the air, you're going to put glue down here on the actual card. So you're going to take your fine tip glue and you're just going to run glue all along this pink part. All right, so if you have any bunches of glue, just use your finger and just kind of tap that, because you don't want it seeping out onto the inside. And then once you have it the way you need it, go ahead and add your acetate right over top. Okay, and I know it looks a mess right now. That's okay. Okay, don't do any shaking, because what you can see right now is that some of the glue, it actually seeped out a little bit onto the acetate. So no shaking, otherwise those shaker bits are gonna get stuck on that glue. You're gonna have to wait for this glue to dry. So I'm just gonna lay this flat, and then the next thing I'm gonna do is just add this top layer, and that's gonna cover up that acetate and some of the glue. So as you're applying this top layer, just make sure that it's lining up with the other layers underneath. All right, so what I'm gonna do before I do anything else is I am going to put an acrylic block over this just to let everything set. And the glue bunches that are underneath, I want those to dry completely. So no shaking if you have glue underneath like I do. Otherwise those pieces will get stuck onto those onto that glue. So I'm going to go ahead and set this entire piece aside. And then I'm going to take this die and I'm going to die cut the pieces that are going to fill in for the word love. And that I'm going to die cut out of some mint cardstock. So here's my letters that were die cut out. I'm using here the mint chip cardstock from the Stamps of Life. And those letters are just going to be glued right on top of the acetate. It looks like my glue is dry, so I can go ahead and start handling this and not have to worry about those shaker pieces getting stuck on the glue. So just lay your letters down. And these letters are so big. And what's nice about this is that you can use these letters as a sentiment on a card. You don't have to use them just on this particular fold-it. So when you lay these down, try not to wiggle or move the letters around because they have glue on the back of them. And what will happen is that you'll end up getting glue across your acetate. And that won't look pretty. Just like I did there. So if that happens, just clean that up. I love these colors. I think I like this one better than the first one that I did. Isn't that pretty? Oh my gosh. Gorgeous. All right, so just want to come back to the original. On the original, I had these hearts that I put on here. This was cut out of some cloud cardstock from the Stamps of Life. And it was cut out of a heart die from the dotted hearts. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these shaker pieces and I'm just going to put some of those on the front rather than doing some die cuts. I think that would look really cute. So maybe here is where, let's see if I put some yellow on there. Maybe I can bring out some of the yellow. All right, so I have them where I want them, and now I'm just going to glue them down. So I'm just gonna take my tip of my glue, just put some glue on there, and then press them down. So look how pretty that is. Isn't that gorgeous? So the only thing I did not add is that little arrow, but if you wanted to add the arrow, you most definitely can do that if you have an arrow. This arrow was from the card kit. I believe it was December 2020. So if you wanted to add that, you could, but I think this looks pretty just the way it is with these dimensional shaker bits on top. Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, so now this is just a die cut piece. We need to put this on a card base. So we're gonna go ahead and take some white cardstock. You can use any color you want, but I suggest picking a color that matches the colors that are in your card. So we're gonna fold it in half, and we're gonna take the largest die in the set. And let's see, how did I have this one? This one I had opening from the top. So I think we'll go ahead and do that again. So to open from the top, just put your fold in your cardstock so that it is immediately below the die. And just put some washi tape to hold that in place and run that through your die cut machine. All right, so I just ran that through my die cut machine. I'm just going to remove the die and the washi tape. And then just remove your excess cardstock. And here's the card base, so you can see how that opens up. And now you're just going to take your layer and you're gonna put glue on the back and add that to your card base. So I'm gonna open this up so that it's laying flat. Line it up at the bottom because the top part, a little bit of the top part has been cut off, so just line it up at the bottom. And then once it's lined up, just press that down. And look at that. There's your shaker card. Look how fun that is. Look at all of those little hearts in there. I love these colors. Isn't that fun? Oh my goodness. So then if you wanted to write a message on the inside, you can do that as well. So that is it for my shaker card tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I want to see a lot of your shaker cards, so go ahead and post those on Facebook or on Instagram and tag me so I can see what they look like. And I will go ahead and link the online class down below. I'm not sure if it's sold out, but if it's not sold out, I will link it down in the description box below, as well as where I got all these shaker bits in case you're interested in these little hearts because they're so darn cute. And be sure to subscribe if you're not already subscribed and turn on your bell notifications so that you don't miss any tutorials from me. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.